Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Today we're breaking down the latest news with the New York Giants heading into a big matchup against the Cleveland Browns in Week 15. Obviously coming off a tough loss against the Arizona Cardinals last week, only scoring 7 points. And rolling into this game, Jason Garrett not going to be calling plays this week. Freddie Kitchens getting the tap for that. As Jason Garrett contracted COVID, so that's a big storyline. And what is Freddie Kitchens going to do differently with this offense? We've touched on that in recent videos. We'll probably talk about a little bit more what we expect. But at the same time, it really depends on who's starting at quarterback, Colt McCoy or Daniel Jones. That's the big question that we're waiting to hear the answer for. Is it going to be Colt McCoy for a second time this season? And last time he played, he got the W. He got the W over the Seattle Seahawks, a super improbable victory there. A big one nonetheless, and really gave these guys some confidence, which ended up biting them in the butt because they came out against Arizona kind of flat. Hopefully they can rebound. Cleveland is a tough team, and it's going to take all three phases of the game to overcome this squad that just put up 42 points against the Baltimore Ravens this past week. But they are coming off a short game week against the Ravens and a loss, so that's going to be a big advantage for the Giants. But the question here is, can the Giants even remain competitive? Because a lot of people seem down on them, rightfully so, without DJ healthy. Obviously James Bradberry, that situation, how are they going to supplement him? We're going to talk all about that, give you guys some updates on the day and, what we think the Giants are going to do this week, how they're going to try and, mask some of these very blatant deficiencies. Before we dive into it all, Anthony, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just chilling, excited for this game. I'm hoping that we don't fall flat again. Like you mentioned, we fell flat against Arizona last week. I'm hoping that is different this week, and hopefully on prime time we can put together, a good performance and hopefully get the win. A lot of good football on this weekend, and we had a really good Thursday night game where we watched Justin Herbert lead his team to an overtime victory. That was fun to watch. I think there's a couple of Saturday night games this week, so that should be cool. That should be interesting. And I think next week as well, there's some Friday and Saturday night games, so a lot of football. I'm very excited. This is the final stretch before the playoffs, so hopefully the Giants can continue to play well like they were prior to last week and then make this push during this final stretch and hopefully get themselves into the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the big question. Can they make the playoffs? Because 2 weeks ago, we were pretty confident the Giants were going to, take the NFC East by storm. Maybe they could beat the Browns, Ravens, or Arizona, Seattle 4 games straight. Now that's a big, I don't think so. And the reason is obviously DJ's injured. The offensive line gave up 8 sacks, and the Giants fumbled 5 times last week. So this is a big problem, going into a really tough game against a strong Browns team. Even, Joe Judge said today that they have a good defense. Their run game is underrated. They have a fast, elusive, big guys in the middle, one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and some solid guys in the secondary. They have Denzel Ward, and some other guys that aren't as good. They have some problems in the slot, but for the most part, if they don't have Daniel Jones at quarterback, Colt McCoy is the man. Colt McCoy, they're going to be relying on. Can he actually move the ball downfield? No. That's the unfortunate answer. Is Colt McCoy is a backup for a reason. He's not going to light it up. He's not going to light up the stat lines, against any team, really. He only had 105 yards, against Seattle, a touchdown and an interception, completed about 59% of his passes. So there's not much to Colt. He's going to manage the game. He's going to try to control the flow, check to his passes, check to his running plays, know what to do. And Freddie Kitchens is really going to do this for the offense. And he did this with 2018 Baker Mayfield. And really what happened was Baker was getting sacked over and over and over again. This is a major, major problem. Freddie Kitchens comes in late week 8, 2018, and he decides, we got to get the ball out of Baker's hands fast. And he did just that, and the Browns ended up winning a couple games, and he ended up being hired as head coach. But the reason that Baker was able to do these things is he made the first reads extremely easy for the quarterback, so Baker could locate those first reads and get the ball out quickly. And then of course you have running backs that are capable of actually running routes. And the Giants are expected to get Devonta Freeman back, I think, next week. He's designated for a return. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe he'll be able to play this weekend. I don't think so. But then you're going to have to rely on Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris, those two guys who have been kind of the workhorses for the Giants. And then Dion Lewis, your running back, who's really a receiver in that way that the Giants would like to use. Freddie Kitchens is going to try and use his running backs out of the backfield as receivers. He's going to try and target those first reads quickly, get the ball out of Colt McCoy's hands fast. But that also leads to another thing, no downfield shots. Because if you're getting the ball out so fast, avoiding that pass rush, trying to not get those sack numbers up, after a really bad performance last week by the offensive line, I doubt the Giants are going to be playing a downfield game this week. Colt McCoy doesn't have he has an arm, not the best arm, and our receivers can't create separation. So there's that, and also this scheme, the concepts will not be changing. And with that being said, there really isn't that many deep shots in this playbook to begin with. So I highly doubt the Giants focus on that. I think they're going to be very much focused on controlling the time of possession, running the football, trying to get that going, picking up first downs, one at a time, like they have been the whole year. And if the Giants realistically had an average offense, we would be looking at a playoff team right now. But since they have the second worst offense in the NFL, right above the Jets, we are where we are. And I don't really expect the Giants to have a monster performance this week. But Anthony, do you think Colt McCoy can put together an okay performance, at least not lose the game for us?
I think he can be a decent game manager. I think it's going to be a very run-heavy game plan. The Giants are going to feed Wayne Gallman, I assume, and that's what I'm hoping that they do. I hope they don't try and air the ball out with Colt McCoy 20 times in this game, or 30 times or whatever. 20 is a normal passing attempt, but neither here nor there. I'm hoping to see a run-heavy approach. I don't want to see Colt McCoy forced to throw the ball downfield. I would like to see him take a few shots here and there, and I do think he will take more shots than usual because Freddie Kitchens actually does have a tendency to be pretty aggressive as a play caller, at least with downfield shots. I think I saw the statistic on Twitter. These aren't exact numbers, but I believe it was like 14% of Freddie Kitchens' game plan was like deep shots, and then for Jason Garrett, it's only like 8%, so it's a pretty big difference. That's probably like 4 deep throws per game more. So I saw that on Twitter. I don't know the exact statistic, but I'm sure you can find it. And so I do expect there to be a little bit more aggression, which I'm obviously going to be really excited about. I've been pounding the table for more aggression from this offense. I think it's been very vanilla, very conservative, especially last week. So I hope to see some more aggression, and I hope to see a lot of running the football and not forcing Colt McCoy to do too much, because I don't think that he is that great. I just think he's okay. He's a decent backup who can just get the job done if he has to, like he did against Seattle. We have to give him all the credit in the world for that. He didn't lose us the game, and I don't think he'll lose us this game, but I don't think he's going to win it either. I think it's going to take really good coaching once again and a really solid running game.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Colt McCoy, he's a player that you're not going to expect to light up the stats, obviously. The running game, like you mentioned, is going to be the focal point here. With Colts, you're really just hoping he doesn't beat you, and the Giants have a bunch of injuries they have to worry about now. Obviously, Evan Ingram's now on the list. That's a big question mark, and he's, you need him because he's really your only true playmaker at this point. Wayne Gallman's great, love him in the running game, but he's not a home run type of guy. Sterling Shepard's really a first down picker-upper, red zone threat. He's not going to hit you downfield. Darius Slayton's basically been, inefficient. He hasn't done much the past couple of weeks. He looks hampered by some injury or whatnot. And then, you have backup guys like Austin Mack. There's no one really that's going to be able to blow things out of the water for them. Evan Ingram's really the only guy I can look at and say, despite the drops, despite the turnovers, he's the only one I actually trust to, push the ball downfield and, get something going. So we'll see how that goes.
Golden Tate catches a few deep balls every now and then.
Right, you have Golden Tate, that's true. But at the same time, the Giants just don't, work well on offense, and it's every phase of
Correct.
The offense. I was just talking about this. It's everything, though. You know what I mean? It's not just Daniel Jones. It's not just Jason Garrett. It's not just the wide receivers. It's inconsistencies from the offensive line that just collapsed last week. It's Daniel Jones missing reads and progressions. We saw this during the film review. Daniel Jones was missing blatantly open receivers, whether it was Deion Lewis in the flat, Caden Smith on 3rd and 1. We saw this routinely, missing throws, missing reads, not even looking to the left side of the field. He was just staring down receivers. This is the whole momentum thing I keep mentioning. He's a momentum-based quarterback, and when he lost, that game of momentum when he was out against Seattle, it severely hurt him. It showed up last week. At the same time, I actually don't think that Daniel Jones is a good, pure passer. I think he actually needs his legs to complement his arm. Because his legs allow him to, stretch the defense, keep them honest, and, that those RPOs are really, really good at keeping guys away from him so he can have a clean pocket. Daniel Jones is great when the pocket is perfectly clean, and he has great numbers when the pocket is clean, but how often in the NFL is the pocket always going to be clean? And every quarterback that's starting in the NFL, if they have a clean pocket, should have great numbers. You know what I mean? That's just how it should go. If you have a great pocket, you should make good passes because there's no pressure. Pretty blatant, obvious stuff here. So it's good to know that he can actually do it when the pocket's clean. But you have to imagine, in the NFL, when you're playing against better teams, especially like the Browns have a great defensive line, and DJ's under pressure, you're going to have to make plays under pressure. And if he can't run, if he can't use his legs, that's half his game. So now we're watching a DJ, Daniel Jones play, who just can't get it done without that leg factor, that mobility factor, which is why, I just say you start Colt McCoy. And the reason being is you don't want to let DJ hurt himself, pick up other injuries. Now he has a low ankle sprain on his left leg and a hamstring on his right leg. Now he has 2 injuries to deal with. And you need him for the end of the season. You need him for those last 2 weeks, because if the Giants are in a
don't you need him now?
Maybe,
isn't this the end of the season? Don't you need him now? That's the question.
Here's what I would say is you need him now, yes, but at the same time, look at Washington this week. Washington doesn't have Antonio Gibson. They don't have Alex Smith. So they have Dwayne Haskins and a bunch of and J.D. McKissick as their running backs.
But they beat Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago. Like if they beat Seattle, the Giants are basically screwed. And I don't think that the Giants can afford to play this, look ahead to this down the schedule and be super cautious game. Like they have to go balls to the walls every single week, and if they want to make the playoffs. Just me personally, that's how I feel. Like if Daniel Jones can go out there and play, he absolutely should. I don't know if it's going to be a good idea long term, and I don't know how efficient he's going to be, but if he's not playing well, you just pull him out. You pull him out, you sit him on the bench, and you put Colt McCoy in. You at least give him a series or 2, in my opinion, if he's healthy enough to do it and says that he can, and the trainers clear him. I know, the sprained ankle really complicates things now because he's dealing with 2 injuries, and that's kind of tough. Like, how do you put a guy out there when he's dealing with 2 injuries? But I think really that's just going to tie into a bigger question, like, is Daniel Jones becoming injury prone? Is this becoming a problem that twice now, this is, 2 years in a row that in the month of November, December, he gets injured? And it's like, is his body unable to sustain a full 16 games? That's the question that I'm starting to have that's really making me concerned. I do want to touch really quickly. You mentioned the no pressure versus under pressure. This is from Pro Football Focus. If you put any stock into that, no pressure, he has a 91.7 offensive grade. Under pressure, he has a 46.4 offensive grade, so that's nearly a 50-point difference. He has an 81.1% completion percentage when he has no pressure, and he has a 63.1% completion percentage. This is adjusted completion percentage when he is under pressure. So keep the pocket clean, Daniel Jones can play well. But when you have the pocket, or when you have the offensive line playing the way that it did against Arizona, Daniel Jones is going to be a bad quarterback. He's going to be very bad. He's not going to have a good adjusted completion percentage, which means he's not going to complete a lot of passes. He's just not going to play his best game. But if you keep the pocket clean for Daniel Jones, I think that he can have a solid game, even if he's a little hampered. Because I think when he stands in there and he reads the field well and he makes the throws, I think that he is a very efficient quarterback. And I don't necessarily think he needs his legs to do this. His legs help him get out of pressure, and every now and then he makes a good throw under pressure while rolling out, but I don't think he necessarily needs them as long as the offensive line plays well.
Yeah, but think about this. If DJ's able to run, they have to spy on him. They have to allocate a player on defensive spy, which actually takes a guy away from the pass rush.
True.
So that there's an extra pass rusher that you have now that you can just say, go get him. He can't run. The guy can't run. He has 2 bad legs. This is why I think they shouldn't have played him last week. And I don't think they should play him this week, because I think this is a losable game for Washington, and they need to make sure that DJ is healthy. Those final 2 games of the season are going to be huge. They have to win against Dallas in Week 17, and Baltimore. This is a tough game, especially with Darnay Holmes expected to be out, James Bradberry's out. Save your guys for the last 2 games, and then you play your heart out, because this is turning out to be a really, 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 bad game for the Giants already, just based on injuries. Yeah. And I'm usually the optimistic one. I'm usually the one that's saying I think they can pull this off. But right now, you gotta, talk to yourself as a coach and say, Daniel Jones is injured severely. I don't think that hamstring is. I don't think it's healthy yet. I don't think his ankle. He was hobbling today. I could see it in the videos. So you're looking at those injuries and saying, Daniel Jones is clearly not 100% healthy. You don't want him to get more injured, and you don't want him to get his confidence rattled even more than it was last week, because he was missing reads, he's missing throws, he doesn't feel confident in the pocket. DJ needs to be confident. We saw when he was confident that he played well in that 3-4 game stretch of winning. The problem is when he's not confident, he makes bad decisions, bad reads. He threw a ball to the flat in his own 15-yard line to Evan Ingram last week that could have been easily taken to the house. Like, those are decisions that we didn't see him make through weeks 9 to 13, and now we're seeing it happen again. And another injury on top of that is only going to make it even more probable he makes a bad decision. And he fumbled 3 times last week. I mean, Colt McCoy fumbled twice too, but that was because of the offensive line. You got to just it's a really tough matchup. And I think, when you look at it logically, you have to say save Daniel Jones for another day, because these injuries aren't massive, but there's a good chance if he plays on these injuries, he's going to re-aggravate or even pick up a third injury,
Yeah, and I think I'm going to be the more optimistic one this week. I still think that Cleveland is an inconsistent team. Like, yeah, they've got a great offense and a really good defensive line, and, they've been playing really well. They're a definite playoff team. They're a really good team, and we're probably outmatched, but I'm going to be a little more optimistic and say that they are inconsistent. Patrick Graham knows how to scheme together a great defense. I do think that we have a chance. I'm not just going to count us out in this one. Yeah, I'll probably... On Sunday when we do the live stream, I'll probably do my score prediction, and I'll predict us to lose, but I'm not going to predict us to get blown out. I think that we'll hang in there. I definitely think there's a chance in this game. And I want to talk about Daniel Jones again, because I want to say, here's the thing, like, when you're mentioning that QB spy, right, like that's an extra pass rusher now, what do you think quarterbacks like Drew Brees and Tom Brady and all these other straight pocket passers do? Like, they always have that extra rusher that you're talking about. So if Daniel Jones cannot handle that extra rusher, then he can't play NFL football. He should be able to handle it, and I fully think that he can. I just think he benefits from teams actually respecting his legs and having that spot. Yeah, he benefits from that.
Right.
But it shouldn't be a necessity for him to have that extra guy not pass rushing him, Like, I think really it's more of an indictment on the offensive line than it is on Daniel Jones when that extra pass rusher makes a huge difference on the game. That's the offensive line's problem. I don't think that's Daniel Jones, in my opinion. He should be able to handle that, and I do think that he can. You know me, I'm pretty high on Daniel Jones. I'm pretty optimistic about him. There's a lot of things that I really like about him. Yeah, I criticize him because he does some bad things, but I think that he can handle that. It's just... like you said, man, like, he isn't healthy, so I completely understand if he sits this game and they do save him for the last 2. But what if he's not healthy next week? Then you're going to say, well, I don't know. We're just going down a bad path right now, and if he can go in there and he is healthy enough to do it and he can maybe set our course straight, then yeah, I would like to see him try and do it, and at the worst case, you just pull him after a drive or 2 if he's really just not playing well.
Yeah, I mean... comparing him to guys like Drew Brees and stuff, these are pure pocket passers, and they know how to deal with pressure, getting the ball out quickly, throwing receivers open. Daniel Jones can get the ball out quickly, but I very seldom see him throw him receivers open. That's
a good point. I do see him throw receivers open when he takes those one-on-one shots that I've mentioned countless times. He throws them open there. I don't necessarily see him do it on the short to intermediate range. But the thing with like Drew Brees, right? He does operate solely in the pocket. We don't see him get out of the pocket like ever, right? But if you remember, I think it was last season, might have been the season before, there was that game where the Saints were like on a tear, and then the Cowboys they went to Dallas, and the Cowboys just like started rushing him from the interior in like an insane way, and the Saints completely collapsed. Like, Drew Brees just collapsed, and everyone was like, whoa, is Drew Brees like terrible now? Like, what just happened? If you remember that was because of the offensive line. That wasn't because of Drew Brees, you know what I'm saying? So, like, Drew Brees operating in a pocket is excellent, but once his interior of the offensive line collapses and he can't see what's in front of him, it's the same principle for every single quarterback. If you can't see what's in front of you, you can't throw to what's in front of you, So for Daniel Jones, the key to me isn't whether or not there's an extra rusher, it's whether or not the offensive line picks up that extra rusher, or the running back, or whoever is assigned to do it, the tight end, whoever is assigned to pick up that extra guy has to do their job. It's the ultimate team sport. Everyone has a job to do, and they all have to do it. And the offensive line has to start playing better. They were playing well. They played really bad last week. They have to return to form if we want, and this applies for Colt McCoy too, if we want the quarterback position to succeed in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's why I think DJ's legs are so important to him, because when the pocket collapses, he's able to roll out.
Because our offensive line is ass.
Well, that's basically what I'm trying to say, is the offensive line last week did not do him any favors, which, by the way, is really disappointing. When your quarterback is injured and he comes and he shows up and he's like, I'm going to play, I'm going to battle through this injury, and your offensive line puts up a crappy piece of garbage performance like that, when your quarterback's trying to play for you, come out there and put it all on the line, injuries included, and trying to, carry his team to victory, and your offensive line comes out and puts that garbage on the field. That's not the team that we've seen this year. That is not Joe Judge's mentality. That's not disciplined football. That showed me no passion, no respect for your quarterback trying to get up and play with injuries. That is not what we want to see in our football team. That is, and I'm sure Joe Judge looked at the offensive line and said, your quarterback came out here, put it all on the line for you guys, wanted to win this game, and you did that to him. You got him injured again. You allowed him to fumble 3 times, several hits, blindsided hits with nobody blocking. Some of those were the tight ends, by the way. But the point still remains the same. You can't do that, man. You got to come out with more passion, with more heart, with more grit, more energy than that piece of garbage we saw last week. You know what I mean? And if we see the same this week, I'm going to be really disappointed in this team and the way they rebound from bad losses. Because in my opinion, the way a team rebounds from a bad loss says everything. Says everything about the mentality that they carry forward, and then what is going on behind the scenes in terms of the coaching, what they're teaching and the energy that they're deploying and instilling in these players. So I want to see a better performance in the offensive line first and foremost. If they can hold up that strong Browns, pass rush, I think whoever's back there can make the throws. Like I said before, Freddie Kitchens is going to focus primarily on short throws, getting the ball out quickly. That was what DJ was succeeding with before his injury, getting the ball out in record timing this year for him. We're going to see that. We're going to see running backs, running routes more so, and I want to see more of that because you have Deion Lewis and he barely ever runs any routes or already catches any balls. DJ missed a couple reads to him last week. So this is stuff that we need to see more of. And Jason Garrett was not helping DJ. The offensive line wasn't helping DJ. But at the same time, the coaching staff I think let down DJ because the game plan was bad. They should have never started him in the first place since the game plan was bad. They should have pulled him immediately once they figured out that he was in danger of hurting himself because he was being forced to run all over the place. That's my biggest thing. I don't think he should have played anyway in the first place, but the reality was he was running for his life the entire game, and they decided that we're going to keep him in there and let him get injured essentially. You can't do that, man. You can't let your quarterback get injured like that. It's bad coaching. It just looks bad overall. And I think that was Joe Judge's biggest mistake this year. And I love the guy still, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's done some fantastic things for us already. But you gotta be objective when it comes around. You can't always be positive and optimistic. And today I'm feeling really objective. As you can see, I'm usually super optimistic and happy. But today, I'm giving it to the Giants coaches because they need to hear. And we need to hear and understand that they're not invincible to having bad games. And they even admitted it after. Judge said we were outplayed and we were outcoached. We were outmatched entirely. We did not expect what they were going to do on defense. And we completely collapsed because of it. So there you go. That says everything you need to know about what they did. And if their plan collapsed and failed, they should have never put DJ in a position to fail and get injured again. And here we are talking about DJ again. Think about it. If they sat him this week, if they sat him last week, he'd be completely healthy to go this week. He might even be able to run. And this is a more important game in my opinion than last week was. Right? Arizona's a beatable team, but you have to be careful with your starting quarterback. You can't make dumb decisions like that because now you're screwed. Now you're really screwed because now we're projected to lose this game by a significant margin.
Still, I'm still going to hold true to what I said last week and what I've been saying. If Daniel Jones was cleared to play and he said and he felt that he was healthy enough to do it, then I'm happy with the decision that they made to play him. I just wish that they gave him a better game plan, and I wish that the offensive line played better for him. I thought the game plan didn't do him any favors. He wasn't really allowed to push the ball downfield at all, so he was forced to just throw underneath. And the problem is when everything's covered underneath, then you have nothing. You can't even throw the ball deep. You just have nothing in front of you, and you're forced to just take sacks, especially when the offensive line is playing so poorly. You don't have all the time in the world to just sit and wait for somebody to get open. You don't have that. So that's my problem. If they were going to start DJ and play him, then they should have had a better game plan in place. And, of course, the offensive line just needed to play better, right? So, and I agree. If this is how the game was going, if it was going so poorly, they should have pulled him sooner. They pulled him towards, the end of the game in the fourth quarter. But they should have pulled him sooner when they realized, man, this is not doing him any favors. This is only putting him in harm's way, and we can't afford to have him go down again. They should have pulled him. And that's kind of the mentality I think they should have this week if they do play him. I don't think they will. I do think Colt McCoy is going to start, and I do think he's going to play an average game. I don't think he's going to win us a game. I don't think he's going to lose us a game. Like I said. But I do think that it'll be interesting to see if they do have Daniel Jones start the game, will they be more likely to press that red button? Will they be quicker to say, let's get you out of here if things start to turn bad? You know what I mean? That's really what I'm going to be keying in on if Daniel Jones is out there. But like I said, I don't think he will be. I think it's going to be the Wayne Gallman show on offense, and I hope it is. I do hope to see more Dion Lewis. You mentioned that. I remember, who was it against? Was it against Washington at home, I think? Daniel Jones hit him on like a 25-yard pass down the left sideline. Because remember, we were talking during the live stream breakdown. We were saying,
I remember, yeah.
They always put the running back out wide, and then they motion him in. That was the one time that they didn't motion him in because Daniel Jones actually saw the cover too. So he sent Dion Lewis on a 9 route, and he hit him right in between the cornerback and the safety, and it was like a perfect throw. That was a great throw, and I would like to see more of that. Dion Lewis has that great receiving ability, and we know Freddie Kitchens loves to get those running backs involved in the passing game. I hope we see Dion Lewis more involved in the passing game. You can look at that play as an example, and you can look at his career with Tennessee and even with New England as another example. Like, he is a great receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah, no, you're right. He can do a lot of great things, and I don't think they've used him the right way. We see him on 3rd and 1s way too often. 3rd and 1s in opposing teams' side of the field. You want to just run that ball in the middle.
I'll say though, we do see them do some creative things with Dion Lewis. Like, it'll be it'll be on the goal line, the 1 yard line, and they're in the shotgun, and then they just hand it off to Dion Lewis. No one sees that coming. Dion Lewis is your scat back. No one expects him to gets the inside zone from the 1 yard line. So I do like it when they do that. I think that is pretty creative.
So, yeah, they've done creative things with Dion Lewis in the past. I think that they can do more with him, and I think that Freddie Kitchens is going to activate him a little bit more efficiently, and maybe some 2 halfback sets. We'll see what they do there. But the bigger news, aside from the quarterback situation, the injuries there, is James Bradberry, man. That's a huge loss for this defense. Massive. It's arguably bigger than the quarterback loss. I actually thought about it. I was like, I wonder if losing James Bradberry is actually a bigger deal than not having Daniel Jones this week. And I actually think
probably
it might be a bigger deal than not having DJ, because James Bradberry takes away an entire side of the field. He is the glue in that secondary. And the Giants, they have some good guys back there that can supplement Bradberry, but you can't replace his production and efficiency, not a chance. What they're going to do, and I thought it was going to be Logan Ryan, but apparently it's going to be Julian Love. Julian Love, back to his Notre Dame roots. He's going to be playing cornerback this week, and what do we expect from that? Julian Love, the reason he transitioned to safety in the first place, I'm excited too, and the reason he made the transition to safety in the first place is because he doesn't have the speed to play cornerback in the NFL at a high level. The speed is a major problem, that lateral quickness. I think, he plays safety well because of it. He has great vision. I think he has very solid vision. He can move up into the box. But he's been playing outside this week, and I think it's going to be a good chance for him to, showcase what he's capable of in his familiar role. So pretty excited to see what he can do there. The Cleveland has some decent wide receivers, nothing out of this world. But it's going to be tough, man. The defense without Bradberry is going to be difficult, to say the least.
I mean, James Bradberry is the glue that holds the defense together, really. We have such excellent pass coverage, especially in man coverage, because James Bradberry is always out there really locking down a whole receiver for a whole game. And we won't have that this week, and that's concerning. I think you make a good point. Like, is it a bigger loss to have no James Bradberry or to have no Daniel Jones? Like, at least we know with Colt McCoy, we know what we're getting. And we know that he's going to play probably decent like he did against Seattle, and he's not going to win it, but he's not going to lose it like we said, right? So, but with James Bradberry's replacement, we really don't know what we're getting. Like with Julian Love, we've never seen him play cornerback at the NFL level. We saw him do it in college, and he was pretty good. It's why he got drafted to the NFL. But then we saw him do it in the preseason in his rookie year last year, and he wasn't good. And then they transitioned him to safety, and it took us like 10 weeks to even see him hit the field. And then he was playing really great at safety, and, we were all excited about that. So, I think he's a versatile player. I think he's a good player, but is he an NFL-level corner? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. It should be exciting, though. Like, I am excited for Julian Love. I'm happy to see him get this opportunity. I just, I wish this wasn't the reason he was getting the opportunity. And also, I hope that James Bradberry actually doesn't contract the virus. I know he was a close contact. I hope he doesn't contract it. Prayers up to him, to Jason Garrett, and anybody else dealing with COVID. But Also Isaac Yiadom is going to have an expanded role in the defense. He is like a premier piece of the defense right now. Just imagine if this was like week 3 and we were saying that when Isaac Yiadom was getting torn to shreds, and we were like, and now 10 weeks later, 12 weeks later, we're saying Isaac Yiadom's our number 1 corner. He is the guy now. He is our main cornerback. Like, that is 2020. That is insane. I can't believe that's what it's come to. But, hopefully Yiadom, he has been playing pretty well lately. He's been playing at a pretty solid level. Hopefully he can continue to do that. But the Giants are extremely thin at cornerback. Darnay Holmes is likely out, so that's your slot cornerback out. So I wonder if they're actually going to put Julian Love at slot or if they're going to put him outside. I think McKinney, like you mentioned just now, I think he's actually going to play the slot, and I'm really excited for that. Everybody should know who's been listening or watching for a while. I'm a huge Xavier Mckinney fan. I love the guy. I'm excited to see him get more playing time, and this is the week we're finally going to see an expanded role for Xavier McKinney, and I think that is uber exciting.
Yeah, I mean, McKinney's a guy who saw his snaps exponentially grow last week to 39 total reps. 12 in run defense, 5 pass rushing snaps, and 22 in coverage. He played primarily strong safety, which is super interesting. But I think he'll line up, in the slot. They've been working Julian Love exclusively outside this week. So he'll be an outside corner alongside Isaac Yiadom. This is going to be interesting
because he was really more of a slot guy coming out. So that's interesting that they're going to put him outside. Yeah. But we've been waiting forever to see him outside. Like, we were saying that a long time ago. Back when we first started this whole thing, we were saying we wanted to see Julian Love outside.
I have been saying this, and people say, why don't we just get rid of Julian Love? Someone actually said, why don't we cut Julian Love and save the $1 million? Blah blah blah. Why don't we do this? Like, what value does he have to the team? And I've been saying this for like a year now. I love Julian Love. Love him.
Me too.
Pun intended. And the reason I love him is because he can play multiple positions. And you need
He's a perfect depth piece.
Think about it. On any other team, you need a guy who can play exclusively cornerback, exclusively strong safety, exclusively free safety, exclusively slot. Julian Love can play all 4 positions. If you need him, he will do it. He can play it. He knows the technique. He knows how to do it.
He plays some better than others, but he has the ability to actually line up at all of those positions and not be a complete liability. Like, he is a decent player at every single one of those positions, which is just, immensely valuable.
And he's exactly what the Patriots mold wants in a player, really, because you want guys who can play multiple positions and fill needs, because it allows the
he's a judge guy.
He's a judge guy because it allows management to actually allocate roster spots to other positions. You know what I mean? Like, I love Love because he's capable of doing that type of thing.
Me too.
So we'll see how he does this week. Obviously, I don't expect him to be Bradberry level. I don't expect him to be.
Imagine if he was, dude. That'd be sick.
That'd be unbelievable. I would love it. So much love.
Imagine he becomes the CB2 of the future. Like, this one game, he just like, that would be cool. It's not likely. It's not gonna happen, but we can hope.
It's not. Yeah, it's not likely. But with all the injuries, obviously you have Darnay Holmes. And Bradberry on defense. It's going to be tough. Not going to be easy at all. But I expect the Giants to dial up some good pressure. And that's the kind of thing I want to talk about. Lastly, is how do the Giants develop this pass rush scheme against the Browns? And they actually won't have their star right guard Wyatt Teller this week, who's like an all-pro guard this year, like a big piece of the run game. This interior defensive line is going to have to show up. This is Leonard Williams. This is what you pay him for. This is what you pay Leonard Williams for, to show up against good teams. And you know what? He did not show up last week. He did not play well last week. And I got to say, that was disappointing because Seattle had a garbage offensive line, and he showed up and played great. And, you want your great players to play against bad teams, but you also want your great players to play well against good teams. And this is a chance for him to say, last week was an anomaly. I play well against good teams. I'm going to show up and make a difference in this game and maybe get a turnover, maybe a sack, whatever it might be. I don't want to pay a guy elite starting money if he doesn't show up against great teams. You see Chris Jones, you see Aaron Donald. They dominate against the best players in the league. I don't want to pay a guy who's dominating against crappy competition. Washington, the Giants hadn't won a game the entire year against a winning opponent, and he showed up against the win. He showed up in the wins against losing teams, and that's great and all. But I want to see him show up against teams that are good, like the Browns.
Well, I mean, Seattle's a good team. They just have a bad offensive line. I think that's what you're trying to say. Like, they have a terrible offensive line, but they're a great team. Like, that was a clutch game. He showed up against a good team, but he had a favorable matchup. They were down to like their third string right tackle and everything like that. So I get that point, but also This is actually, because I was saying this when we were doing the film breakdown, and I think even in another video this week, I was saying the Giants are going to have to apply pressure from the interior. Like, that's the number one thing that they're going to have to do, because with Baker Mayfield, what they love to do with him is get him on the run. You know, they love to do bootlegs, and they love to roll him out of the pocket because he's so good and so accurate when throwing on the run outside of the pocket. That is like his number one strength, is throwing on the run. So the thing is, they're going to roll him out of the pocket. So what the Giants are going to have to do to, defend against that, they're going to have their edge rushers contain on the outside, and then it's going to be, one-on-one matchups for those three guys on the interior, and they're just going to have to play some good football. Like, those interior defensive linemen are going to have to play good football and pass rush. They're going to have to get to the quarterback. So I think that's really, a fortunate break for the Giants that Wyatt Teller is going to be out playing at an all-pro level. He's going to be out, so we should see one of those interior guys get 1, maybe 2 sacks. Like, Leonard Williams should get back there in the backfield more than once. Not saying he's going to get more than 1 sack, but he should be pressuring the quarterback consistently, and so should Dexter Lawrence, and I think Dalvin Tomlinson should even get back there a couple of times, because that's going to be the Giants' game plan in terms of the pass rush. Like, you're going to contain on the outside, and you're just going to hope that interior gets the push up the middle. That's how you beat a short quarterback like Baker Mayfield anyway. Like we were talking about earlier with Drew Brees, it all ties in, right? Drew Brees is a short quarterback. That's why he struggled so much against the interior pass rush, because he can't really see over it, and you can't get those passing lanes for him if you're just stacking the middle. Like, you have to throw through the B gaps, and then his A gaps are just like filled. So that's really what you do against the short quarterbacks. You just clog those A gaps, and then those QB contains. You give the guy nowhere to go. He can't roll out. He can't go either way, and then if this interior is just collapsing on him, he can't actually see over the middle of the field. So that is like the key game plan for the Giants in terms of their pass rush. In my opinion, that's how they should play it, and that's how I think they will play it. And I'm excited to see that play out, because I do think we could see a pretty big game from either Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, or Dexter Lawrence.
Yep, I 100% agree. I think they should do exactly that. Play contain on the outsides, force Baker to stay in the middle of the pocket because he's so good in play action, so good at rolling out. Try and force him to stay in the pocket and use those big guys in the middle to put pressure in the A gap. Really dominate the interior of the trenches, and they can win that way. They can actually get some production. It's really going to come down to how many points can the offense put on the board, though, because Cleveland will score points. They're going to put up points. If the Giants have any shot at winning this game, they're going to have to score more than 20 points. And that's the low end. That's the low end. So tough matchup, guys. I'm not going to lie. We all know it is. But, we always have to hope for the best, because you never know. The Giants pulled off a crazy win against Seattle 2 weeks ago. Nobody expected it, so we've seen crazier things happen. The catch, we've seen Super Bowls, we've seen it all. And this is an improbable one, but, I would never say impossible. So as always, my friends, thank you for tuning into the Fireside Giants podcast with Anthony and I, talking about the Giants and what to expect in this upcoming game against Cleveland and this winning Browns team that just came off a 42-point performance against the Ravens. So as always, appreciate your support. We'll catch you on the next one, and let's go Giants.